The buildings went up between 1850 and 1890. Civic halls, railway stations, courthouses, post offices, constructed across cities that had no telephone lines connecting them, no centralized planning authority, and often no direct communication beyond mail that took weeks to arrive. And yet they shared the same proportions, the same ceiling heights, the same window placements, the same load-bearing column intervals. In Manchester, England, a town hall completed in 1877 used arched doorways at 14-foot intervals. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a courthouse finished in 1884 used arched doorways at 14-foot intervals. In Melbourne, Australia, a railway terminal opened in 1880 used arched doorways at 14-foot intervals. No shared architectural firm. No international design conference. No published standard that historians have found. Just the same results appearing across 3 continents, built by different contractors, in cities that didn't coordinate. The pattern doesn't prove anything, but it asks something. And the question gets sharper when you realize how many of these buildings still stand, and how many modern structures built to replace them have already been torn down. This documentary explores observable patterns in 19th century architecture. It does not make historical claims or assert hidden truths. All information is drawn from public records, city archives, and architectural surveys. Interpretations vary. This is an examination, not a conclusion. The standard explanation is convergence. Architects trained in similar schools, reading similar books, influenced by similar movements, Beaux-Arts in France, Gothic Revival in Britain, Richardsonian Romanesque in America. Styles spread through published drawings, through travel, through reputation. And that explanation works for aesthetics. It explains why buildings look similar. But it doesn't explain why they were built the same size. A town hall in Leeds, England, completed in 1858, had a main assembly room measuring 120 feet by 80 feet. It served a population of roughly 200,000. A town hall in Bradford, England, completed in 1873, had a main assembly room measuring 120 feet by 80 feet. It served a population of roughly 150,000. A city hall in Philadelphia, started in 1871, had a main assembly room measuring 120 feet by 80 feet. It served a population of roughly 675,000. Same dimensions, different populations, different needs, different budgets. So why the same room? You start noticing it everywhere once you look. Post offices built for 10,000 residents with sorting rooms large enough for 50,000. Railway stations built for 2 daily trains with platforms long enough for 12. Courthouses built for towns of 8,000 with holding cells designed for populations 5 times that size. The mismatch isn't occasional. It's structural. And it's not just about size. It's about timing. Between 1855 and 1885, over 1,200 major civic buildings were constructed across the United States and the United Kingdom. That's an average of 40 per year for 3 decades across 2 nations. Historians attribute this to industrialization, wealth creation, urban growth, the rise of civic pride and municipal governance. But those things explain why cities wanted to build. They don't explain why cities built the same thing, or why so many of those things were finished within the same 5-year windows. Take water infrastructure. In the 1870s, American cities began installing underground water distribution systems, cast iron pipes, pressurized pumps, centralized reservoirs. By 1880, over 600 cities had them. The systems weren't identical, but the core design was. Pipe diameter, pressure thresholds, valve placement, hydrant spacing, all within a narrow range of specifications. The American Water Works Association wasn't founded until 1881. There was no national standards body, no federal regulation, no shared technical authority, and yet the systems matched. Philadelphia's water grid, completed in 1876, used 12-inch mains with hydrants every 300 feet. Cincinnati's grid, completed in 1878, used 12-inch mains with hydrants every 300 feet. St. Louis, 1879. Same specifications. Engineers would say this reflects best practices. Optimal flow rates, hydraulic efficiency, knowledge shared through professional journals and conferences. But the first major water engineering conference in the U.S. was held in 1881, after most of these systems were already built. It's the same story with rail. Between 1860 and 1890, American railroads laid over 160,000 miles of track. Most of it used a gauge, the distance between rails, of 4 feet 8.5 inches. That's a strange number. It wasn't metric. It wasn't based on any natural unit. It came from British mining tramways which had copied it from Roman cart ruts, which supposedly matched the width of a chariot axle. But here's the thing. American railroads didn't need to use that gauge. There was no federal mandate until 1886. Different companies, different regions, different standards. Some used 5 feet, some used 6, some used narrower. And yet by 1880, over 80% of American track was already 4 feet, 8.5 inches. What? The official reason is interoperability. Railroads wanted to connect. Rolling stock needed to move between lines. Standardization made economic sense. But the coordination happened before the networks connected, before the economic pressure existed. Small railroads in isolated regions, places with no intention of linking to major lines, still used 4 feet 8.5 inches, as if the standard came first, and the need came later. You see it in the UK too. Victorian town halls, built between 1850 and 1880, share more than style. They share floor plans. Ground floor, public entrance, administrative offices, clerks' rooms. First floor, council chamber, mayor's office, committee rooms. Second floor, assembly hall, public gallery. Not every building followed this exactly, but most did. Across dozens of cities, built by different architects, funded by different councils. No mandated template, no legal requirement, just the same layout repeated. The timing raises questions that don't resolve easily, because the infrastructure didn't just appear. It appeared together, in overlapping decades, in places that shouldn't have coordinated. And the buildings that came out of that period, they're still standing. Which is unusual, because most 19th century construction wasn't built to last. Wooden houses rotted. Factories crumbled. Tenements collapsed. But the civic buildings? The courthouses, the stations, the post offices? Still there. Still used. Still solid. As if they were built for something longer than the moment required. The Erie Canal opened in 1825. It ran 363 miles from Albany to Buffalo, connecting the Hudson River to the Great Lakes. It was the longest canal in the world at the time. And it was built for a population that didn't exist yet. In 1820, the year construction began, New York's population west of Albany was roughly 200,000. The canal was designed to move 500,000 tons of freight annually. By 1830, 5 years after opening, it was moving 300,000 tons. By 1840, it hit 1.5 million tons. The infrastructure came first. The demand followed. That's the official story. Visionary planning. Investment in future growth. Building ahead of need to enable expansion. But the Erie Canal wasn't unique. Between 1820 and 1850, the United States built over 4,000 miles of canals. Most were designed for freight volumes that wouldn't materialize for decades. The Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, started in 1828, was engineered to handle 2 million tons annually. It never carried more than 1 million. Not once. The Morris Canal in New Jersey, completed in 1831, had a capacity of 800,000 tons. Peak usage, 350,000. The Illinois and Michigan Canal, finished in 1848, was built to move 1 million tons. Actual traffic, 250,000. Over and over, the same pattern. Infrastructure built large. Demand that never matched. Historians call this speculative overbuilding. Optimism. Miscalculation. But that doesn't explain why the miscalculation was so consistent. Or why the infrastructure survived anyway. Rail followed the same script. By 1860, the United States had 30,000 miles of railroad track. Britain had 10,000. Together, they represented over 80% of the world's rail network. The construction happened fast. In the 1850s alone, America built 21,000 miles of track. That's 2,100 miles per year. Roughly 6 miles per day. Every day. For 10 years. And much of it was built in places with no immediate economic justification. The Transcontinental Railroad, completed in 1869, connected Omaha to Sacramento. The route passed through hundreds of miles of desert, mountains, and empty plains. There were no cities, no settlements, no freight to move. It was built for future expansion, for settlement that hadn't happened yet. Within 20 years, towns appeared along the route. Freight traffic surged. The railroad became profitable. The infrastructure predicted the need. But how? Look at grain elevators. In the 1850s and 1860s, massive grain storage facilities began appearing in American cities. Buffalo, Chicago, Milwaukee, Duluth, cities along the Great Lakes and major rail hubs. These weren't small buildings. They were industrial cathedrals. The Buffalo Grain Elevator, completed in 1843, could store 55,000 bushels. By 1860, Buffalo had elevators holding over 2 million bushels. Chicago's elevators, built in the 1850s, had a combined capacity of 12 million bushels by 1870. The storage came before the grain. In 1840, Illinois produced 3 million bushels of wheat. In 1850, 9 million. By 1860, 24 million. The elevators were built in the 1850s, before the production surge. They anticipated demand that hadn't crystallized. And when the grain arrived, the infrastructure was ready. The same thing happened with telegraph lines. The first commercial telegraph line in the United States opened in 1844, running from Washington to Baltimore. By 1850, there were 12,000 miles of telegraph wire. By 1860, over 50,000 miles. Most of it was strung before there was enough traffic to justify it. Small towns with populations under 5,000 got telegraph offices in the 1850s. Offices that handled maybe a dozen messages per day. The infrastructure cost more to maintain than it earned. But the lines stayed up. And by the 1870s, when traffic increased, the network was already there. The system anticipated the users. Gas lighting shows the same pattern. In the 1850s and 1860s, American and British cities installed gas street lighting on a scale that exceeded immediate demand. London had 1,000 gas lamps in 1823. By 1850, it had over 50,000. By 1870, over 100,000. New York installed its first gas lamps in 1825. By 1850, it had 10,000. By 1870, over 25,000. The expansion wasn't driven by population growth alone. It was driven by coverage targets that seemed to assume denser future populations. Streets were lit before they were heavily trafficked. Residential areas received gas lines before the homes were built. The grid came first. Then there's the administrative systems. In the 1840s and 1850s, both the United States and the United Kingdom restructured municipal governance. Britain passed the Municipal Corporations Act in 1835, standardizing how towns were governed. City councils, elected mayors, defined responsibilities for water, sanitation, policing, public health. The system was applied uniformly. Towns with 10,000 residents got the same administrative framework as cities with 100,000. Same council sizes, same committee structures, same reporting requirements. In America, the process was less centralized but similarly uniform. State legislatures passed laws in the 1840s and 1850s defining how cities could incorporate, how they could tax, how they could build infrastructure. And the laws were nearly identical across states. New York's 1846 municipal code looked almost the same as Pennsylvania's 1851 code. Ohio's 1852 code matched Michigan's 1850 code. Different legislatures, different political contexts, different regional priorities. Same administrative architecture. The fire and police systems followed the same template. In the 1850s and 1860s, American cities transitioned from volunteer fire brigades to professional fire departments. The organizational structure was nearly identical everywhere. Assistant chiefs, captains, lieutenants, firefighters. Same hierarchy. Same rank titles. Same operational protocols. Boston formalized its fire department in 1859, Philadelphia in 1870, Cincinnati in 1853, New York in 1865. Different cities, different dates, same structure. No federal coordination, no national fire service, no mandatory standard, just convergence, or inheritance. The postal system is even stranger. By 1860, the United States had over 28,000 post offices. Britain had over 11,000. Most were built to a standard design. Same counter height. Same sorting room layout. Same signage placement. The U.S. Postal Service didn't issue official architectural guidelines until 1893, but the buildings constructed in the 1850s through 1880s already followed those guidelines, as if the standard existed before it was written. Whether this reflects inheritance or convergence, the result is the same. Across two nations over 4 decades, infrastructure appeared that was larger, more standardized, and more coordinated than the official explanations comfortably allow. The systems didn't just work, they worked together. And they worked before they needed to. Which brings us to the label that tries to make sense of this. Tartaria, originally referred to a region, Central Asia primarily. The name appeared on European maps from the 16th through 19th centuries, describing territories controlled by Turkic and Mongol groups. It wasn't a single empire. It wasn't a unified civilization. It was a geographic label applied by outsiders to areas they didn't fully understand. By the 1850s, the term had faded from official use. Russia had annexed most of the region. New borders, new names, new maps. The word disappeared from geography. And then, in the early 2000s, it reappeared, but with a different meaning. Online researchers began using Tartaria, not as a place, but as a placeholder. A way to describe architectural and infrastructural patterns that seemed disconnected from the official timeline. Buildings that felt too advanced. Systems that appeared too coordinated. A period where progress seemed unnaturally dense. The term doesn't refer to a hidden empire. It refers to an interpretive problem. Why does so much 19th century infrastructure look like it was inherited rather than invented? 3 interpretations have emerged. The first is conventional. Industrialization accelerated development. Wealth, technology, and communication networks enabled rapid, large-scale construction. Architects shared knowledge. Engineers copied best practices. Standards emerged organically through professional exchange and economic necessity. The pattern isn't coordination, it's convergence. The second interpretation is architectural inheritance. Some researchers suggest that 19th century builders were restoring or repurposing structures from an earlier, less documented period. That the new civic buildings were actually renovations. That the uniformity reflects not planning, but reuse of existing templates. This doesn't require a lost civilization. It only requires that some infrastructure predates the official record. The third interpretation is administrative continuity. That the systems, the postal grids, the rail gauges, the municipal codes, weren't invented in the 1800s. They were formalized, standardized from practices that had existed informally for longer than records suggest. That what we call rapid development was actually slow adoption of inherited frameworks. All 3 interpretations deal with the same evidence. None require supernatural explanations. None dismiss the historical record. They just weight the evidence differently. And the evidence keeps accumulating. Return to 1816 for a moment. The year without a summer. Volcanic winter. Crop failures across Europe and North America. Widespread famine. And yet, within a decade, both continents began their largest infrastructure expansion in history. Canals, rail, civic buildings, water systems, telegraph lines. The timing is uncomfortable. Not because it's impossible, but because it asks how societies recovering from crisis had the capacity, coordination, and capital to build on that scale. The official answer is economic rebound, investment, innovation. The Industrial Revolution hitting full stride. But the buildings themselves suggest something else. They suggest the capacity was already there. Tartaria, in its modern usage, isn't a claim. It's a metaphor. A way of naming the discomfort that comes from looking at 19th century infrastructure and feeling like something doesn't fit. It's not about proving a lost civilization. It's about acknowledging that the timeline feels compressed, that the coordination feels unexplained, that the scale feels mismatched, and that maybe the official explanations, while not wrong, aren't complete. The buildings are still standing. The systems are still in use. You can visit them, walk through them, measure them. The evidence isn't hidden. It's open, public, documented. What's uncertain is how to interpret it. And that uncertainty, that discomfort, is what the term Tartaria has come to represent. Not a revelation, a question. One that invites examination, not conclusion. Because the infrastructure remains. The timing remains. The coordination remains. And the explanations, however reasonable, still leave something unresolved.